talking about flat taxes?
Oh, yeah, flat tax. I'm definitely a fan of that, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would save a fuck ton of money.
No, well, I don't think so, actually. I think it would be a lot simpler for me. Um, there's downsides and upsides to it. Downside being if you invest in something, you can't write that off anymore. Meaning, like, if you were going to make $100,000 this year and you decided that you were going to upgrade your streaming setup and you were going to spend $75,000 doing it, they wouldn't give a shit. So that's the downside. That it's negative to businesses on that front. But the positive front being it encourages things that don't necessarily happen right now. Meaning that if you have a shitload of money and you're buying a lot of buildings, there's really not tax that's going into the government besides property tax on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like it might encourage more consumption, even though that seems backwards because there'd be a tax on consumption.
Yeah, that kind of does seem backwards. I don't know.
Well, the reasoning being right now, how much money is hoarded because of tax avoidance would be the question.
When you say flat tax, what are we talking about? Like a tax on goods that you purchase?
Yes. So that would be the only tax that the government would have. Basically, it would be if you buy a car, there's tax. If you pay for a lawyer, there's a tax on that.
Do
If you rent an
consumers
apartment,
really
you're
make
paying tax on
decisions that way? Like,
I don't know. I think most people forget about tax for the most part. If you're buying something, I'm not sure how important the fact that there is a sales tax on it. Lots of states have different variable sales tax on it.
Yeah, you got state
right?
sales tax, city sales tax. I think sometimes you can have district or region or something. I think there can be a third one. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, but the thought being there's a lot of money to save by having a simplified tax code. But there's a lot of people that are obviously against it. And it's kind of a self-oiling machine. You talk about creating jobs, but then you put out essentially everyone in the IRS out of work out of doing it. That's a lot of jobs that are gone.
Well, I don't think that matters. If it's a good idea, you don't want to have jobs just for the sake of having jobs in government, right? It doesn't really make sense.
Well, I don't think it's going to ever happen, though. Like, I think I read online that Intuit, which is the company that makes, like, TurboTax,
Yeah.
I think they're one of the world's biggest lobbyists
Yeah,
for
and
the
they
United
lobby
States.
to prevent tax reform and auto-populating tax forms and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just look at it along the lines of, I think life would be simpler if you didn't have to do taxes anymore. The reasoning being that if it's pure consumption-based, how many companies move their operations outside of the United States, not just for lower wages, but for tax savings? Like, we know that Google does this thing where they have a lot of their European profits don't come into California. They go into this area, I think in Ireland, and they do that for a massive tax savings. And how much of that wouldn't matter anymore if there simply wasn't any corporate income tax? How much more business would be brought back to the United States as a result of that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's an interesting conversation. I don't think our politicians are generally equipped to have it, unfortunately, but yeah, I don't know.
Not now. What do you think Trump is trying to do with this tax overhaul? Does it sound like he's trying to do a flat tax, or do you think he's trying to go in some order?
I think he's
not
just
a flat
doing,
tax, but like a flat,
no,
like 15%.
I think, isn't he just going, he's just doing the Republican toe the line. I think he's like trying to condense some tax brackets and then lower them elsewhere, and that's really it. Like,
I'm just not sure how well that's going to
but
go
I don't think it
with
matters
previous-
because I don't think he's going to get any kind of tax reform through anyway. It doesn't seem like...
You don't think so? I think you would have kind of Republican support for that, but I imagine it'll be tied to some other nonsense.
Well, it'll be tied to how it impacts other people, right? Does the Congressional Budget Office pass, like, judgments on, like, tax reform? Do they do that? Is that in their purview? Do you know?
I think everything has to go to approval of
well, I mean, like, because
Congress
like when the CBO was evaluating the healthcare, and you'd see that like 20-30 million people would lose health insurance, that lost support real fucking quick. So if the CBO is passing evaluations showing that lower income, like on all the tax plans that I saw put out by Trump, they were like massive savings of money by very, very wealthy people, and that was it. And there was just no way to get that money back. Like, it was literally, I think the Tax Policy Center, and then there was one other. Both did their independent reviews of the tax Trump plan, and even
wait, is there a Trump plan?
Yeah,
for taxes? I haven't seen anything.
When he was on the campaign trail, he had a tax plan. I don't know if it's not going to be what it shows up in Congress as, right? Or I don't know if the Republicans are going to try to draft a separate one. But that Trump tax plan received horrible evaluations from people that independently went through it, even when they were accounting for hypothetical growth in the economy. There was like $10 trillion plus projected deficit over the next like 5 to 10 years or something. So,
all right. So what I'm seeing from what he did, what he changed is he wanted to have 3 tax brackets for
condensing
normal
tax
income,
brackets. Yeah,
but they're all lower.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what the. Yeah, they are.
That's interesting. And there was no way making up for this on something else. It was just.
Well, I don't know. Where do you get the money from?
Well, it has to come from somewhere else, unless we're going to cancel a lot of other programs.
But that's the Republican problem, is they don't have any idea what any of these numbers mean. For a great example of this, when Trump was in one of the debates, he said that he wanted to oh God, what was it? Oh, he wanted to shore up the differences in like Medicaid or Social Security spending or something, right? And you know, this deficit was like to the tune of like over $100 billion or something. It was something crazy like that. But then when he was asked like, how are you going to shore up these differences, he said something along the lines of like, I'm going to kill the EPA, and the EPA's annual operating budget is like $8 billion. It's like it's like 2 orders of magnitude off. So it's like, this is not even remotely possible. Like the numbers never add up for any of the Republicans when they want to talk tax cuts, unfortunately.
You know, one thing I don't necessarily understand very well.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Real quick. Mike Spam is spamming in chat that there isn't a Trump tax plan. Trump had a tax plan when he was running, when he was campaigning. Trump had a tax plan posted on his website. I don't know if you can still access it or not, but he absolutely had one. I know because there were 2 different independent groups that evaluated that tax plan. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one thing I don't understand is it seems most Republicans, I guess when you say core Republican base, is pretty much anti-globalization, anti-kind of fucking around with other countries. What's strange to me is there seems to be such huge resistance with having any cut against the military budget. And obviously, if you just shave the military budget by 10%, essentially you can do whatever you want. You can, that's a shitload of money. But it doesn't necessarily make sense to me why we have to keep the military budget so high from Republicans if they don't want us to even be using the military.
Well, Republicans love the military. There's a difference. I don't know. You're talking about a lot of big things going on here.
Okay, I'm talking about the fact like Republicans are against us helping allies, right, for free.
No. Okay. When Republicans say they're against globalization, what they mean is that they want to protect jobs on American soil. They want to buy American, right? That's where that tariff-free oil gas station shit came from. That's why people say buy American cars or whatever, right? Is that they're talking generally trade. When it comes to military shit, Republicans fucking love the military because they think that we export freedom to the entire world. They think that NATO exists because people want to be our friends so that we can go and make their country freer and shit, right? So Republicans are never going to be... That's why military people tend to support Republican candidates, is because it usually means...
But doesn't that seem kind of backwards from the
everything about the Republican Party is backwards? I mean,
it's just
don't ask. Are you asking me? I'm just explaining how the party works. I'm not going to give you any type of consistency because the Republicans are very inconsistent on their platform. These are people that advocate for smaller government, but then want to increase, like funding for the war on drugs and making things like prostitution and marijuana illegal and increasing the the federal penitentiary system and criminal justice and other shit. Like Republicans are very backwards on a lot of their logic.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not quite sure how it's all going to end up as far as the tax thing with Trump. So I assume he's going to lower long-term capital gains, which will be good.
He's not. I don't think they're going to get any type of tax plan through. This is the problem. The problem is that taxes are very fucking complicated, and to get people to agree on it is going to be very fucking difficult. Healthcare was very easy. Repealing healthcare should have been very easy, and they couldn't do that. I don't see how they're going to pass something monumentally, exponentially.
What was the problem directly with repealing it, right? Did they not have a decent plan, I guess?
No, they have no plan. No, that's the problem. They'd have no plan.
It can't be that hard to just create a decent plan to do it. We had something before.
How can it,
we had something hard. Before Obamacare.
No, we didn't.
we had people had before Obamacare. Essentially, there wasn't a mandate that you would pay.
Yeah, there
for
was
healthcare.
just private
I know
insurance,
before that. Yeah, but people were paying less, and I think that's what most people, at least for me, I was paying half as much, right? Now I'm paying twice as much after that. It's not a big deal, but I think that's what a lot of other people are feeling is the cost went up.
Well, some people.
This was.
Well, yeah, but the problem is that what we had before was insanely fucking broken. That's the problem. Like 2/3 of bankruptcies were filed for medical reasons. We're the only country on the planet that has these issues. Over half the people that filed medical bankruptcies had insurance when they had to file bankruptcy. Like what we had, and then people are also being like enslaved to their fucking jobs because when your health insurance is tied to your job, you can never fucking leave if you've got a pre-existing condition, right? And then also there was just a lot of shoddy insurance that would drop you if they ever could, if there was ever a major bill that came up. Like what we had before was like really, really, really fucked.
Yeah, I definitely think that we should still, the pre-existing condition is a big thing. I'm just not, I don't know. That's like the only thing I really definitely support is having something that covers that. I'm just not sure the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's really, really, really fucking complicated. It's a really hard thing to do. That's why I have no confidence that this administration or current Republican Party is going to do it.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's why it's a good time to get into crypto and get away from all the taxes in general.
Yeah, until they decide to bring it under regulation and crack the fuck down. How are you? You got? Wait, am I allowed?
Yeah, it's fine.
To talk about stuff?
Yeah.
Are you? How is your Ethereum stuff going?
It's going well. It's very interesting. It's a tremendous amount of work, but so Ethereum in I don't know. It's kind of debated when this happened. In a year, you're going to not be able to mine Ethereum anymore. They're going to move to a model which is pretty interesting, which is essentially. Do you know how Bitcoin works just generally?
I think so. Yeah.
The Cliff Notes. I mean, this is going to be pretty bastardized, but essentially.
Wait, just talk and assume that I know how it works, and then go on. Because I'm pretty sure I have anything.
Ethereum's going to something called proof of stake, and proof of stake is interesting. So right now, Ethereum has essentially miners, right? And they're verifying every transaction that comes in, and then you're like, "Yep, this is correct," and then you send it out to the network, and everyone else verifies that yes, that is indeed correct. So the new system, basically, that they're moving to is there isn't going to be miners anymore. Instead, you're going to put up some coins that you have. So there won't be any miners. Instead, there'll be people who, let's say you have 100 Ethereum. You're going to stake that Ethereum, okay? And you will act as a miner in that case. So you won't be doing a lot of computation, but what you will be doing is verifying transactions. And the idea is if you try to be smart and say, oh yeah, this was a transaction when it wasn't, that they will take away the amount that you stake. But it's like, a huge amount of issues. People are skeptical if they'll come out in a year, but that will be the end of mining Ethereum specifically.
Weird. Okay.
But there's other coins. There's Monero. There's a bunch of other GPU coins, things along those lines that you can do. But, it's interesting. A lot of people say, why get into mining versus just buying coins? And I think there's a pretty easy answer to that. So as an example, you could spend $100,000 buying servers or ASICs to mine crypto. And from that, let's say you could make $100,000 in a year. So for, you make a year payback, maybe. And people would say you would be better off if you would just buy the coins and forget the mining. And that's possible. But by mining, what you do is that you hedge your possible loss. And the functionality behind that is simple. If you buy $100,000 in coins, it could go to zero very quickly. You can try to get out through stop losses and things like that, but you could lose all of your money with that. When you buy machines and real estate and things like that based around mining, what happens is you have a minimum floor that you can hit to, right? So if you spend $100,000 on computers and you get GTX 1080 Ti's or whatever it is, if everything goes to shit, yes, lots of those cards are going to flood the market. All this stuff is going to flood the market, all that type of stuff. But there's a floor price for what that hardware is going to be worth.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, though, because you're not talking about buying GTX 1080s. You're talking about buying ASICs for Ethereum.
No, I only buy graphics cards. I don't.
Oh, okay.
So
because if you were buying ASICs,
I agree. ASICs doesn't apply, but for GPU coins, that's the logic behind, and that's why I didn't get into ASIC mining. ASIC mining is actually much more profitable than graphic card.
But carries the same risk. If the currency becomes worthless, then your ASIC becomes worthless, right?
Yes, it does. And the other thing there is that you're kind of dealing directly with these weird Chinese companies that produce the machines, and you have to kind of hope that they're going to. So how it works with all these machines is you always have to pre-order it and hope that you're going to get it within like 3 months that they'll ship it to you. When you're doing graphics card stuff, you can just say, go contact directly Zotac or MSI, and they will, create at their factory 5,000 graphics cards for you and ship them to you in 3 to 6 weeks. That's the kind of difference that you have. And I think kind of there's the floor price on mining, even if everything really went to shit, is probably 50%. So you don't even have to make your money back directly when you're mining. You have to make about 50% of your money back, because then the remaining value you have in your assets at that point. So it's very profitable to do, and there's a lot of smart ways to do it, depending on where you kind of set up shop. There's a few places in the United States. There's Central Washington, which is an area called Wenatchee, Moses Lake, and power out there is about 2 cents per kilowatt hour. You're probably paying something like 15 to 20, I would guess, where you are. That's kind of the standard residential rate for most people. So it's enormously cheaper if you go out there, because essentially your staying power is massive. Most estimates for the Ethereum network say that about half of the hashing power isn't professional farms. It's like regular people from your chat that just run 2 or 3 graphics cards out of their house. And when the power cost drops below a certain bit, those guys will drop off. Difficulty will get easier. So you can't really lose money until, of course, Ethereum stops being mineable and you move to another coin. But it's really kind of I never did anything like this before I got into it. But it's anything you're talking about 1 year payback, and it's been much better than that so far. Came in assuming a 1 year payback. It's looking like so far less than 6 months of doing everything. And, aside from that, you just have to kind of hedge your bets. How much of the coin are you going to hold, waiting for it to go up? Or are you just going to sell everything as you get it in every day? But yeah, I don't know. I was in stocks a little bit, but I'm completely out of that, and I just kind of worked with this now.
Wait, you're out of stocks completely? What does that mean?
I don't have any stocks at all.
Like not even like broad funds, like mutual funds or anything? You're complete?
No, nothing.
That sounds kind of scary. The lack of diversification doesn't bother you a little bit?
Well, I think so the diversification I have, still the majority of my assets are tied up in real estate and websites.
Oh,
right? So
okay, my bad. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think that's, I just look, how do you feel? Okay, let me put this a fact to you. Coinbase, which I think is probably the most legitimate exchange, if you will. It's the most well-funded. I think they just raised on $1 billion valuation in San Francisco. So when they say that they have 100,000 people creating an account a day to be able to purchase Bitcoin and Ethereum, what do you think? Obviously, Tulip Mania a little bit, but how do you think that changes moving forward? When does this become something that's real? Even though there's no necessarily intrinsic value behind these coins, when does it become something that is real?
So for me, the way that I view all of the coin stuff right now, it looks to me to function as like a speculation vehicle. Right? That's how I view it. And I mean, based on every conversation I've had with people, that's essentially how people treat it. Is that kind of what you're asking, or?
Well, no. What I'm trying to ask, so for instance, Japan is done. I was out there, and it's actually kind of amazing when you go there how integrated Bitcoin is into things. When you're going to some old restaurant that's been there for 300 years, and there's a fucking Bitcoin accepted here sign on the door, it's strange, right? I'm wondering how much of that will propagate into the United States.
Oh, I don't know. Is there actually a lot of Japanese businesses that do that?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount. It's insane.
Huh.
So yeah, that's the hope. I think that's what most people are expecting.
In Bitcoin, doesn't it take an hour to verify payments now, though?
So what happens is there's third-party transactors. I think it's
people that scrape money. Yeah.
So the business itself doesn't collect any Bitcoin. They just immediately transfer it into to
USD or yen or whatever. Yeah.
And then the third-party thing will take all of the risk of doing it for a fee, basically.
Yeah, because all that blockchain shit is so fucked.
And it's slow as well. Last I checked. I don't do a lot of stuff with Bitcoin, but I believe it's slow, and it's actually very expensive right now. I think I was reading someone sent $100, and it cost almost $10 to send.
If you want to, I think you can pay more to expedite it if you want.
No, that was the cheapest option, though. It cost $10 to send $100. No, that's how. So what happened is, I don't know if you followed this. a month ago, I want to say, Bitcoin split in two,
Yeah,
essentially.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
And it's completely fucked up the Bitcoin network and the amount of just how much it costs to use Bitcoin sending things. They're trying to do it better. It's complicated, but it's not. Bitcoin isn't good for transactions. And the reasoning behind that is I don't need the amount of time, but let's just say every 15 minutes, there's a block that's mined, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that block is a certain size. I think it's 2 megabytes now.
Yeah, and it's added to the blockchain that every single person has to have if they want
so
to
everyone
mine and
has to
validate
compete to get in there.
transactions. Yeah.
Everyone has to compete to get in that. So it's just, once you get past that threshold, like this is not a good system for global commerce. If you can only allow 2 megabytes of transactions every 15 minutes, that's not going to work. So I think Bitcoin Cash was trying to solve that. Then there's this thing called Lightning Network, which is coming in to regular Bitcoin. But it's all...
Yeah, but now all the big arguments for using it are starting to crumble now. It takes a long time to transfer, so it's not instant like it used to be. There's fees you have to pay, so it's not feeless like, the people...
No, everyone uses it now just to make money, to buy low and sell high.
Yeah,
that's like
speculation
99%
vehicle.
use case.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But people are cleaning up absolutely doing this. I mean, the reason... So I've been doing a little trading myself, and the reason that you can be so successful trading is that I don't want to say I think you would be a fantastic trader. Now here's the reason why. Most people who trade this, they're just 17-year-old, 25-year-old kids in that range that are the definition of like the fish in the regular stock market. They buy high, sell low, they panic sell. And if you can just be objective about it in the crypto market, you dominate, because there's none of that. The stock market's dominated by like algorithms and very smart traders. Mm-hmm. The Bitcoin markets are dominated by fucking idiots that were
I feel like there's a lot of whales that do big trading in the Bitcoin market. For
sure, there's a lot of big whales, no doubt about that. But it's very easy to make money doing it.
Sure, maybe.
Not maybe. I mean, you would do fine. I think a lot of people that can kind of put their emotions to a side when trading do pretty much you can do very well just off of that if you can forget about your emotions when trading. And the thing is, the swings are so huge on it currently. It's like every day it's up 10% or down 10%. And if you can just kind of put stop losses, it's a very interesting proposition to be in.
Wow. There's
definitely a lot of bots that are in it, though. There's no regulation. Do you know about ICOs? Have you heard of that?
Nope. What's an ICO?
Oh my God. It's this. So people right now are raising hundreds of millions of dollars with nothing but a team in place and a white paper. A white paper just being like a one-page thing saying, hey, we want to build this. So it's kind of like a venture capital money, but you get nothing out of it essentially. So with an ICO, let's say that you wanted to build a Twitch competitor. So you would have a Twitch coin.
Wait, what does ICO stand for?
Initial coin offering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
initial coin offering is where like you quote unquote found your own new fucking coin or whatever with your own algorithm and try to start another, right?
Yeah, not even necessarily your own algorithm. You can just fork something else that exists. You can copy the code base of Bitcoin.
Yeah, and then like make one change or something and call it your own shit or give it a new name or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you could launch your own coin and say, hey guys, so this is actually, someone made a coin, I think called Skim Coin.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just an exact clone of Bitcoin. And they say, this is going to be used for esports for people to trade skins. And they raised $30 million.
Gotcha.
People sent them $30 million for this. That is insane. There's no regulation on this.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to jump in and find the next big fucking meme or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like you could have a DGG coin and you could do... So here's how you could hypothetically do it. You would create your own coin, DGG coin, and then you would have to make it a utility to avoid it being a security. So you could say that you could buy subscriptions to your site with this coin, right? And as a result of that, you could do initial offering, and you could say one coin of DGG gets you one, month of tier 1. And then you put it out there, and depending on how much people like the team that you have in place, you could say, we have I Light About Cake and Write the Bear Arms, and you're like, God damn, that's an amazing fucking team. And you say, oh yeah, we just added Mr. Mutant, and the price goes fucking sky high. But that's how people have done this shit, and they raise, the last one I saw raised $200 million. It's unreal. But the whole thing, I think, as a result of that, that's probably going to be a huge crash because of that. What causes that?
Well, but as Bitcoin prices continue to climb, people are probably still going to look to like luck into that or something, right?
I guess. I mean, people are using Ethereum a lot for these ICOs as well.
It reminds me of they're like penny stocks, kind of, right? Where there's like it's like a dime a dozen. There's a million different ones, but like if it goes big, your upside is like fucking retardedly fucking huge.
Yeah, correct. Like, I mean, it's very similar to penny stocks, except penny stocks are arguably better, just because you own a piece of the company, supposedly. As here, you literally own nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of insanity. I don't get it. I definitely thinking about how can you do an ICO or something along those lines, though, because that's a lot of money with no regulation.
No, that sounds unethical as fuck. What the fuck?
Yeah, but dude, unethical. That's how you make money.
Scamming my fucking viewers for.
Nah, dude, they'll be okay with it.
DGG
listen,
coin?
You can be like Dark Side Phil. You can say, listen, I got 3 places.
Oh yeah,
and
my condo that I need
money.
to pay for.
Yeah, exactly, right? You're doing what you have to do to kind of get by, and I think that's a fair thing. You need to launch a coin. Listen, it would be good. You can have all sorts of offerings that you can do. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know where it's going to be in 6 months or a year. I feel like Bitcoin. I'll tell you this: my prediction is so Bitcoin right now is very, very close to $5,000 a Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
I think a few days ago it was $100 away. I think once it crosses that threshold, it's going to be insane what happens, for the simple reason is the amount of press that is going to come out from Bitcoin hitting $5,000 in the mainstream media is going to bring in this huge wave of institutional investors that want to get in on it. That would be my thought, at least. So I think once it hits 5,000, it will very quickly go to 6, 7, and 8. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit 10 by the end of the year. I don't have Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's always the problem with Bitcoin, though. Like, if Bitcoin went to 10 at the end of the year, I really wouldn't be that surprised. But if it went back down below 1, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Below $1 or 1,000?
1,000.
Yeah.
It gets so swingy. Yeah, that's the only spooky thing for me. Although I would probably just hold, I guess, if I were to buy any now. If I bought any now, I'd probably just hold until it was like 7 or 8 plus. And then if it crashes
I think
too
that's
much,
that's realistic. Right now, I think it's a decent spot. Back in the day, so when Coinbase first launched,
mm-hmm.
My friend was telling me about Bitcoin, so I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll put $1,000 in. So I wired him $1,000, and that was like 1,000 Bitcoin or something. And they came back with, sorry, your order was denied for fraud. And I was like, all right, fuck it, this is too hard, and I didn't do it. But that's it. That's how it goes, man. It's
not really logical to think about it this way, but like I feel really bad for all the people that like look in their transaction histories that spent like oh, I bought a pizza for 200 Bitcoins and it was so cool, like stupid shit like that.
I think that guy bought a pizza for 100,000 Bitcoins, not 100.
Yeah, just dumb shit. Or the people with the hard drives that were going dumpster diving, even when it was like $200, $300 a Bitcoin, that were looking for those.
There was a guy that did that, right? His wife threw out his computer, and then he went to the dump looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Yeah, man, I don't know where all this shit's going to go. I feel like there's some benefit to having the government hands-off currency, but really isn't. People are still exchanging it for dollars at the end of the day. It's just imaginary play money Forex, essentially. But there's a lot of money in it. And it's very simple. The key is just to find the safest way to invest into this stuff, limit your downside, and maximum upside. Yeah, someone brought up in chat, if this fucking guy Satoshi comes back and dumps his half of the Bitcoin network, whatever the fuck this guy owns, that's going to kind of be a big issue as well.
Yeah.
Like, can that guy? What do you think happens? So this guy has a tremendous amount of coin. It has to be billions of dollars, right?
Yeah, of course.
If he even moves one coin,
it's going to be because if you move that coin, it shows
just
right?
one, right?
But, because then people would have to reevaluate the entire market reality. Because right now, when people look at the coins in existence, they consider those coins like immovable. The assumption is that these coins are never going to move. So yeah, as soon as you see one of those move, I think it would cause a huge fucking panic. People would be going crazy on that shit.
So what do you even do if you are that guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the crazy thing. So someone out there is literally sitting. I mean, imagine the resolve that you need
Billions
to
or even
have as
trillions
well.
of dollars, maybe.
No, it's not trillions. It's in the billions. Like I think
Apparently, he
Bitcoin
owns
market
300,000 bitcoins.
cap- Okay, yeah.
So 300,000 times 4,500 would be 1.3 million thousand. So that would be 1.3 billion, right?
I feel like it's more than that. But yeah, that's like, this guy it's such the theory that I have, and I don't really have anything to back this up because I think the guy died. Because I don't think anyone else could survive
That
not
would
spending
be
the
pretty
money at this
memey
point.
too. Oh,
No, I think
shit.
it's the only thing that explains it, right? Who can have, who is this benevolent guy who could have $1 billion and not spend $1? You know what I mean? He hasn't been able to make any money from it.
Some estimates would be that he bought in early onto other coins, and aside from that, he's been trading or buying and selling, and it wasn't just the initial. Like, he doesn't need to touch his initial load. Maybe he's already fairly wealthy, and he doesn't need to move any because he recognizes the volatility it would cause, so he doesn't need the money. So, I don't know. It's just guesses, maybe. Like, plausible explanations.
Dude's dead. For sure.
Maybe.
100%. But yeah, that's a thing. If those coins move ever, that's like the market tanking massively. It's interesting. A lot of people, like when the Silk Road got shut down in the FBI auctioned those coins, people called that venture capital firm, fucking bonkers because they paid a premium to get them. Like you would assume if you're buying something in bulk, you get a lower price. They paid more than spot price for them. And obviously that was a good move now, but it's crazy. Now the big thing that they're building, which does give it some staying power. So remember I was talking about Coinbase, right? Mm-hmm. It's a website where you can kind of exchange, Bitcoin into Ethereum and into dollars. So what they have now is they have completely decentralized exchanges as well. So, but obviously no USD in there, just crypto to crypto. But still, that's an interesting development of how much staying power you can kind of have here. And there's so many different coins now. If you go to like CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, I've seen there's like 1,000 listed on the, there's not 1,000, but there's like a stupid number of like coins listed. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's for different stuff. So they have one called USDT, which is called Tether. And the whole point of this coin is one coin always equals $1, regardless of, it doesn't go up or down. Actually, I mean, it does go up and down by like a few cents when people are panic selling. But the company that issued this coin essentially guarantees that they will buy or sell you one coin at any point for $1. So this whole thing is kind of a pseudo store of wealth on top of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin starts tanking, you can be on an exchange that doesn't. So a lot of exchanges actually don't let you get dollars out. They're purely crypto only. So you can trade from Bitcoin to Ethereum and vice versa. And yada, yada.
Gotcha.
So they made this coin so you can go into a USDT coin at any point.
Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Huh. I linked you something on Skype. People are saying that this might be the guy. Apparently
Is this dude dead?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He was saying apparently he got
probably right.
He was an early Bitcoin user and received the first Bitcoin transaction from Bitcoin's creator.
So you want to go to this guy's yard sale, basically. You want to be buying any USB drives or computers that come out of this house, for sure.
Well, I feel like there's already fucking people that would be on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to luck into anything from his property. There's probably people with very close eyes on all of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think the smart strategy with all this stuff is never really hold stuff. So I did some trading, but go ahead.
Nothing, I just rolled a character I didn't mean to. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, not holding coins I think is good. I try to not hold anything for the most part. I put it into cash at the end because it's a different kind of thing, right? So if you mine coins, there's two options. You can hold on to them and hope the value goes up, but that's just a different business, right? You don't get into mining to do that. Or at the end of the day, you just turn it all into cash. And I think that's the diversified way to do it. But there are people who hold stuff. So, it's interesting.
Sure.
Different strategy. But I think not holding coins is probably the way that you can follow the crypto market and not specifically care if at the end of every night you don't have anything left, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take your profits and put it into real estate. That's how you do it. You still looking at buying something out there? Rental?
I don't know. I was just gonna sell my old house because I didn't want to fuck with it because Rachel's moving out. But then I found out she'd been scamming me hardcore on the rent, and apparently I can make a decent amount of money renting it out. So,
what's the rent? What should the rent be for there?
Well, I was charging them like probably maybe $1,000 a month, if that. And apparently she's telling me now that she's moving out because I said that I told her that I wanted to sell it because I just don't want to fuck with it. And major repairs just eat up so much in profit. Like I had to pay $2,000 to cut back some trees. Just random shit like that. And she was
Do you know what?
What?
I was going to say, what do you think the value of the house is now? Will you make a profit after your mortgage?
Yeah,
and everything?
so I think I owe around 90 on it. I bought it for I want to say 115, and it's worth like 130 now. Is what I brought a lady over, the one that helped me buy this house, and she said she could probably sell it for that much.
And you moved out what, a year ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so you won't have to pay any taxes at all then.
I hope not. I think I'm outside. When I bought that house, I had that first-time home buyer credit. I don't think I have to pay that back because I'm outside the window for that, but I'd have to check up on that.
Well, yeah, and there's this other thing in the United States, which is if you've lived in a house, I think for 3 out of the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
you can make up to $500,000 in profit and pay no tax.
Oh, I didn't even consider that. That's actually really cool.
So any gain that you have wouldn't be taxed but you would have to sell it before that window opened up. Like if you buy a house, move out, and then you sell it 5 years later, that window is gone.
Mm-hmm. The initially they were paying $1,000 a month in rent. The mortgage payment on that house is like $860, but Rachel told me that she can probably get like $1,500 a month in rent for it compared to other houses. So at that level, it seems like it's more worth it to just hold on to it, and then I'll just make her play property manager. I'll just ignore it.
Why not sell it and get something just built to be a rental if you're going to be in the real estate business anyways?
Because I'm not comfortable leveraging an asset that I couldn't afford to pay for if shit got fucked.
Right now you're leveraging an asset, right?
Well, yeah, but the asset is something that I can, like, if nobody rented that house out, like you were talking about, like buying a $500,000 house with a $50,000 down payment and then trying to leverage that. So if nobody rents that out for 2 years, I'm pretty fucked. That's a lot of money. That like I'm uncomfortable because I'm forking what for a $500,000 house, probably like $3,000 a month for a mortgage or something like that. Like that's a pretty scary amount of money to not be making.
Well, do you think that that's realistic that you wouldn't be able to rent it?
Well, it just comes down to a matter of diversification and what level of risk I'm willing to accept. Like, let's say that I have like a 90% chance of renting it, so like I'm pretty much guaranteed to rent it at 90%, right? I don't know.
Well, for a certain price, you'll definitely rent it for a price.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable that there's a 10% chance that I could face like severe financial trouble when my life right now is financially like worry free. You know. Like I've got like an ETF that's been netting me 13% returns over the past like 4 years on Vanguard. Do I really want to sink like a good portion of money that I have?
The reason to get into real estate is because the government has created these amazing tax incentives that are not present with stocks.
Yeah, no,
like,
I understand. I'm just saying that like this is why I would be more like I'm comfortable because with the current house I have right now, the mortgage every month is $900 a month. If nobody lived in that house for 2 years, it doesn't hurt me. It's $1,000 a month. I mean, it kind of sucks to just lose that money, but it's not like a big deal at all. But if somebody rents it out, that's pretty cool. It's $600 a month in profit, plus I'm gaining equity in the house, and like that's a pretty cool thing. Whereas if I, again, like doing it with a $500,000 house, like that's now we're moving into $3,000 or $4,000 a month that I'm not making or risking not making money on is a little bit scarier to me, I guess. If that makes sense. Like I'm more comfortable doing it with a cheaper house than a more expensive one, even though I know you could leverage it better.
Imagine you did it, you sold your place, so if your place is worth $150. What about if you sold that and then you bought a duplex for $150, right? So you would get more rental income out of a duplex that costs the same amount. If you're going to keep your stuff in real estate, wouldn't it be prudent to do it into something that had the maximum returns?
Yeah, maybe. The housing market in Omaha right now is really crazy. Like everything is selling for so much. That's why rental prices are so high. Like even when I bought my house, like things were selling same day, and they still are almost. So it seems like it's a bad time to buy if I was going to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't speak to the market in Omaha. I'll just say again that like the U.S. makes owning property just so beneficial. Like they want people to own property. And
Yeah, no,
there's
I understand that. I understand that.
The
But I mean, you
benefits
have to
are
understand
unreal.
that the benefits are there, but you have to understand that those benefits are going to be baked into the rental price as well to some extent, right? Like if those benefits didn't exist, then people wouldn't be renting for $1,500 a month. They'd be renting for $2,000 a month or something, right?
Well, a lot of people rent. Look how much those benefits influence the price, so to speak. But if you talk about, so your house is, let's say, 130 grand, and you can rent it for what you think, 1,500 a month right now?
Yeah, is what Rachel was saying pretty easily.
Okay, hold on. So let's call that 20 grand a year, right? So 20 grand a year, not counting expenses, you're talking about a 6-year payback on gross income, right? No, six and a half year.
Mm-hmm.
Or just call it 7 or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's a pretty good return on any investment, the 7-year return on investment. But then you get into the fact that you can write off so much if the value of the house goes up. And that's the whole reason you borrow as much money as possible, in my mind. So if you buy a $100,000 house, if the market is going up by 5% a year or 10% a year, instead of having a $100,000 house go up to $105,000, you have a $500,000 house going up.
Yeah, I understand leverage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, this is why you borrow as much.
I know.
Like
I know. But then the diversification is what scares me. Do you understand?
But you are diversified. Like you're.
I'm not. Like a $50,000 down payment. That's a lot of money to me. That's a lot of money.
Forget about $500,000. Do 25 grand or
that's still a decent chunk of money to me. Like if I lost $25,000, like that would suck. Well, I guess
sell your car.
No, I like my.
Gotta
car.
Be prudent. Sell your car.
I love my car, dude. That was the
scooter.
best 40 grand I ever spent. Oh, I love my car so much.
Oh my god! Like literally the anti-Jew.
What?
The anti-Jew, like buying a fucking.
This
nice
is like
car
the only thing I've ever.
estate.
First of all, it's not even that nice. I could have got like a GTI. I could have, or like an Audi, like R8. I could have gotten like full fucking memes. Okay, so this was a responsible.
You were considering an R8.
No, I'm saying that I could easily afford it, but I'm very $40,000 car is pretty conservative considering the money I make, right? I could have gotten something like way dumber, like if I really wanted to. So let me have my one happy thing. I never buy anything for myself ever, right? Like what do I buy for fun ever? Everything I do is just streaming a computer game. So this is like my only thing that I've ever bought aside from I guess like going out to eat. Okay, so chill. All right.
Chill.
So chill.
I still think real estate would be amazing for you. You have the mentality to be able to effectively manage it and read the market, do that. There's a lot of stupid people who make a lot of money in real estate. It's not hard to be successful there. And you take advantage of the tax benefits, and it's just, look, the market can go down, and I know that's a big concern you have. If the market goes down, you're like, fuck, I don't want to own a $500,000 place that's going to be worth $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is...
I'll think about it. If Rachel wants to play like property manager to more things, then I'll do it. Like the thing that I like about stocks is that it's easily liquidable. Liquidity?
Yeah.
Liquidable? It's either liquidable or liquidatable. One of those two words, right? But like the thing that scares me about a house is having an asset that could like wrap its like rope around my neck and drag me underwater and kill me. That's the only thing that scares me about a house. Like for a stock, if a stock price starts to tank or something stupid happens or whatever, like I don't mind. I can hold it. I'll watch the value wither a little bit. It's whatever, It's not like I have to pay to keep my stocks. Whereas if I've leveraged an uncomfortable amount of money, we'll say even 25, we'll say $500,000 house, right? If I'm holding on to a $500,000 property and I'm starting to get dinged $3,000 or $4,000 a month on something that's not generating revenue for me, that's much scarier for me. I can't just sit and hold that for like, well, nobody wants to rent for a year or two. Like, oh, well, I'll just eat, like $40,000 to $50,000 a year in lost income. Like that's a scary amount of money for me to just lose. That
seems very unrealistic, right? Because you're saying no one wants to rent. People want to rent. They might not want to rent at the price that you're offering.
Oh,
you
so
put
you're
the
just
rent
saying...
out for. Like you will always rent it. It's just you have to find
just
that
accept
balance
a lower amount. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's never going to be nothing, right? I mean, unless you're talking about like the days of the 2007 bubble in Florida. But you have that. I mean, look, you have to ask yourself how important is it, and how often have you gotten out of stocks because you needed access to cash because you're giving up the benefits of real estate for that one purpose.
I guess when I say
right?
liquidity,
You're
I'm
saying,
lying. I'm lying. It has nothing to do with liquidity. I've never taken money into my Vanguard fund. I guess what I'm really talking about is getting billed every month for an investment is the thing that scares me. But you're saying that, but I'm being retarded when I analyze this, because what I'm saying is if I've got a $4,000 a month house, I'd be really scared if I can't rent it at $8,000, and then I assume that I can't rent it. But the reality would be that, well, I would just eat, a kind of a loss, but not really, and I'd rent it for $6,000. That I can always rent that house at a greater value than I'm paying for it. It might just not be as much as I necessarily want to rent it for, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you need to be smart about it, right? You don't want to be buying real estate in Detroit, 10 years ago, because then, yeah, you could have bought $1 million place that you couldn't rent for anything now, essentially. But if you don't feel like that's a market that's reasonable to happen to you, then yeah, that's the effective strategy to take. I mean, because we've gone over before, the benefits of owning real estate are just so massive and across the board that yeah, you should look into it.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. I'll let you get back to your gaming now.
All right. I love you, buddy. Have fun. Be careful.
All right. Cheers.